Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Urban Farmer Podcast. Hit subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Now let's jump right into it. It's a flashback, The Urban Farmer, as originally recorded 10 years ago with myself and farmer Curtis Stone. Welcome to The Urban Farmer, week 19, July 21st, 2015. Working outside, hands in the soil, sowing seeds, and then nurturing those crops to harvest. That's the vision that many people have about farming. It's that vision that draws people into farming. It's everything that much of the corporate business world isn't. You're your own boss, you're providing actual value to society, you're providing value to your community, and you're probably doing something that aligns with your values. And if you're someone who's currently sitting at a desk all day long doing work that no one really cares about, then being your own boss, working outside, and doing something that actually has meaning and that you're passionate about seems like a dream. And farming is often that dream. The problem is, that's the cherry-picked view of farming. It's like the celebrity that you thought had $150 million, making it rain all over town, when behind the scenes, he's actually bankrupt. 50 cents. This romantic notion of farming, working outside, hands in the soil, sowing seeds, nurturing crops to harvest, while all great and all true, they're just a piece of the farming pie. And this is where problems start to arise. The romantic view pulls people into farming. It pulls them in on just that, a romantic view, not a realistic full picture. And one part of reality that isn't involved in that picture is sales and moving product. Many people don't think about how they're actually going to sell these crops that they harvest. Maybe they just assume someone will want to buy them. Everyone needs to eat, right? A dangerous assumption, and it's no doubt one of the reasons why you hear so many small-scale farmers struggling. They can't sell the product. They invest a lot of time in the dream, but not in how they can actually make that dream a successful and sustainable reality. Today we'll take a look at this idea as we discuss how to sell your farm products so you can keep working the dream, working on the farm. When it comes to selling farm products on a small scale, there are three common routes that people go down: restaurant sales, CSAs, and farmers markets. Curtis's primary method of selling his products is selling to restaurants, and that's something we've covered extensively in a few episodes in the past. Over his 5-year farming career, Curtis has also ran a CSA. That's not something he currently does, but it's a common way that a lot of small-scale farmers sell their product. It's a model that has its quirks like anything else, but it works. Not necessarily right away, and not necessarily in every market, in every location, but it can work if you manage it right. For a new farmer, a CSA can be a tough sell when you're approaching would-be customers. Why might that be? Because by definition, a CSA is community-supported agriculture. And if you're a new farmer, you might not have a tight-knit community to sell to. It's something that takes time to build. That works both ways. As you build your community, they build their faith in you.
The other thing about the CSA is that it requires a level of faith in the farmer. And if you don't know that farmer, you don't have any faith in that farmer.
As a new farmer, it's up to you to start interacting with your community and getting your story out there. These are the things that help you build your reputation within the community. Again, this is something that's critical to think about and critical to do if you're looking to sell CSA shares.
You have to craft your reputation as a farmer to sell CSA shares. I have never met a farmer that just started farming and then just launched in with a 100-member CSA or something like that. I've never seen that.
If you're new to farming and you are planning on selling CSA shares to kickstart your farming career, then that sound clip might come as a wake-up call. What then? The next likely option for sales then becomes a farmer's market. A farmer's market allows you to start selling product right away and generating cash flow right away. But it also has another added side effect. A farmer's market provides a great opportunity for you to start interacting with a community and building your reputation.
The number one place that I sold CSA shares was at my farmer's market. And the other place that I sold CSA shares was from restaurant customers who bought at the restaurants that I served and heard about our farm and heard that we offered a CSA.
Selling produce at farmers markets was a vital part of Curtis's operation at the beginning. It gave him a place to start, a place to build his reputation. Looking back, the farmers market was successful for Curtis. But on the other side, I think that everyone who's dabbled at selling at farmers markets knows that farmers markets aren't the be-all and the end-all. They have their quirks and they have their deficiencies. But they're important pieces to any small farm that's looking to start up and start selling product quickly. So when you go to a farmer's market, how do you handle that? One important thing to keep in mind is people come to a farmer's market for an experience.
People don't go to a farmer's market to stand in like a grocery store type aisle, buy their stuff and get out. They come to a farmer's market for an experience. I guess it's a kind of a cultural experience, a community experience.
People come for the experience, so give them the experience. This is your chance as a farmer to have direct one-on-one contact with the customers. That's a huge advantage that a lot of businesses don't have. Take advantage of that by being yourself, telling your story, offering a good product, backing up everything you say, building your reputation. And if you do all that, who knows where it'll take you. This episode's a detailed dig into CSAs in farmers markets. What's worked for Curtis and what hasn't. Strategies that can help you succeed. Let's get the ball rolling with a question from one of you out there listening to this. So I got this question sent in by a listener named Rick. And here's his question. I have a bunch of thoughts. I responded to him on it, and I'll go through those, and then you can play off of that, and we'll see where we can go with this. But I think it's a question that's specific to him, but I think this will unearth and tease out a lot of topics regarding the market and regarding marketing and how you approach sales that'll be relevant to a lot of people, probably even beyond farming. Here's his question. We decided to do a small CSA this year, just 10 families, to see if we could do it. We have a small 1-acre farm that we pack a lot onto. Since it's our very first try, we're only charging $200 for 16 weeks of garden fresh salad greens and vegetables. So far, we have only one family that signed up. We started a Facebook page and we started a website. We've marketed through Facebook and got a few clicks with it, but no sign-ups. So we're really struggling right now to find customers in our area. So the idea here is I'm in a community where I'm trying to start a small CSA. I just want 10 people to sign up, and I'm going out there trying to get people to sign up, and nobody's really signing up. So that's Rick's question, and I think a lot of people who want to go into this type of farming have this struggle, have had this struggle, or are having this struggle. And I have some thoughts on that, but hearing that, what are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, that's not working, so try something else. That's my immediate thought. Why are you trying a CSA when nobody knows what a CSA is?
I was thinking about this for my situation. So say I wanted to go out now and start farming, and this might actually be a cool concept for a future show. The CSA might be hard in my location because I don't know that people really get CSAs exactly where I'm at. I could probably drive a little ways and find the CSA community. Restaurants in my area are going to be too low income. I don't think they'd be the kind that would buy from local farms. Again, have to drive to go find that, go to the BG community. So I'd be left in this market like Rick of, okay, I could eke out a small CSA or go duke it out at a farmer's market. So some thoughts I have on this are like, could you go to a farmer's market? One, is that something worthwhile to take on? Could you find a CSA that works? that somebody else is doing, and could you bolt onto their existing CSA and grow stuff that they can't? What are your thoughts on that? That's like the aggregator model?
Totally. We were talking about this earlier before we started recording the show too, is just like a lot of people today don't ask the question, what are the successful people doing in this? They might be asking the wrong questions. I think the question to ask, is there a CSA in that area? And if so, what are they doing? And what are their customer demographics? What are they growing? Where are they located? All that kind of stuff. And yeah, that absolutely you could aggregate if that's in your area, in Vista. I don't know. It might be, it's so spread out. I just don't know if in that area a CSA is really the best type of model. I think you got to look at other revenue streams, potentially the aggregator in the sense a distributor type model, maybe not necessarily a CSA, but a distributor type model that buys from other farmers and then delivers it in some way or another, which I guess it could be like a CSA, but not entirely. I think you got to just try these things, and you can't just keep sticking to it. I hope I'm going to make the CSA work. You got to diversify. You got to get into other market streams. And those things might lead you down to a CSA. The number one place that I sold CSA shares was at my farmer's market. And the other place that I sold CSA shares was from restaurant customers who bought at the restaurants that I served and heard about our farm and heard that we offered a CSA. So in order to get CSA customers, maybe you have to engage in other market streams.
That's a really good point there, because it just doesn't become CSAs don't work in my area. It might be they're not working in your area right now for you. So if you enter these other markets, suddenly then you start building up customer base, social capital, recognition, and people ask about the CSAs instead of you throwing the CSA out into the market.
Well, totally. And here's the deal with CSAs, is most people don't know what that is. And the other thing about the CSA is that it requires a level of faith in the farmer. And if you don't know that farmer, you don't have any faith in that farmer. So, like, I found when our CSA was at its peak, everybody knew who we were. A lot of people knew who our farm, because they might have heard me on the radio. They seen us at the farmer's market. The chefs at the restaurants we sell to talk about the farm. There was all kinds of different signals coming from the marketplace telling them about us. And because the CSA requires faith, because it takes a leap of faith to buy into a CSA, because you got to go, hey, here's my $200 or $500 is the usual CSA kind of thing, at least. That requires a level of commitment. And if people don't know who you are, they're not going to take that risk.
It's a fair point, and it's something I hadn't even thought about. But you're right. It aligns with the whole, we got to believe in this person to support this person up front for a whole season, knowing at the end of the day, we may not get anything if the worst case happens.
You have to craft your reputation as a farmer to sell CSA shares. I have never met a farmer that just started farming and then just launched in with a 100-member CSA or something like that. I've never seen that. Not to say that it doesn't exist. It probably exists in places where people are really educated on a CSA, like maybe a state like Vermont or something, where there's tons of small-scale farmers. There's lots of CSAs. There's a demographic of people that are ready to go with that type of thing. Maybe it's possible places like that, but places like Vista, California, God, I bet if you talk to 100 people on the street and just ask them, do you know what a CSA is? Like in your immediate area, I bet you'd get 1% of people that know what it was. I'm generalizing there. I don't know that demographic there that well, but I've been down there enough with you now that I get the lay of the land a bit, and everybody's driving their cars. Nobody's hanging out in the neighborhoods there. I don't really think a CSA is that kind of demographic. A CSA, just break it down, community-supported agriculture. Community is the biggest part of that word, in my opinion, is unless you have a strong community, who's going to support your agriculture? You got to have the community. So that's why it took me 3 years to get to a point where I could make 20 or 30 grand off a CSA in a season. But to start, man, people were so reluctant to sign up and put up $500. You can definitely do things to make it easier for people. You can definitely change your payment structure, so make it less risk for the customer. But then the CSA loses part of what makes a CSA a CSA, is you don't get that upfront capital. But I think that's the main thing there, is if you don't have a reputation as a farmer or just a good reputation as a business person or a person in your community, then people aren't really going to take the risk with you. I remember when I first was explaining CSAs to some people, looked at me like I was describing a Ponzi scheme to them or something. Because all they could hear coming out of my mouth is, I want you to give me $500 up front and I promise to give you vegetables every week. So to somebody who doesn't know about small scale farming and that whole movement, they're like, are you kidding me? I'm not doing that. I can just go down to the grocery store and just pay for what I want when I want it.
That's it. It's a tough sell, and I don't know that the CSA model is the model that brings small scale or medium scale farming drastically into the future. I think it works, but I think the system's broken for a lot of reasons. I know it works in some areas, but I think a lot of areas it doesn't work. Like you said, in Vista here, this is a drive-through community. Like, they want to go to the grocery store. If they're buying any vegetables, that's where they're getting them. And they're not going to sign up for a CSA. Like, I think about one example down here, Stone Brewery, that huge, well, beyond microbrew now, one of the bigger brewers in the U.S. at this point. They were actually a drop point for a CSA for a while. And I could be wrong on how this story ends, but it's my understanding that they were allowing their building to be used as a drop point for a CSA, and eventually that CSA just got disbanded because the farmer couldn't get enough people to subscribe to it. So here you have this mega destination brewery, Stone Brewery in Escondido, that tons of people like to go to, and you can't get people to drive there to maybe have a good meal, get some beer, and pick up a CSA box. That's as good as it's going to get. There's a ton of traffic already going there. It's a magnet location. So I think that's one way people can approach a CSA is what has worked in the area, and have other farmers had success? One thing I think that's really true about this community, just from talking to a lot of farmers and seeing them on Instagram, places like that, is they're willing to talk about experiences. So I think if you're struggling with a CSA in your area, try and find somebody who's maybe not a direct competitor, somewhat in your area, and say, what's worked? How did you get in? But I think people are maybe too quick to give up.
Yeah, for sure. But the thing that I don't like about a CSA is, there's many things I don't like about a CSA, but one of the things I don't like about a CSA is if you're just a CSA farmer, on a weekly basis, you're not really engaging with other farmers. And one thing I've learned in business that is so critical is you've got to engage with your peers. You have to keep up. You got to talk to other people in your industry and listen to what's happening, new innovations. What are they trying? What's working? What isn't working? If you're just a CSA farmer and you're out at your farm and your members are just coming to pick up their box at your house, I don't know. That seems pretty isolating to me. Yeah, we got the internet now. You can go on forums and things like that. So there's definitely some value there. But there's a lot to be said about still like human, like physical relationships and going to other farmers' farms. Or I get so much value still today from going to the farmers market and just walking around and talking to my farmer friends. So much value. Oh my God. Two of my main mentors, farmer mentors, were at the farmers market every Saturday. And that's when I was starting. I would always go a little earlier so that I could have at least 10 minutes to shoot the breeze with them, the two of them each morning. Oh my God. That was critical to my success. Absolutely critical. And if I was just in this sort of like isolated situation, I don't know if I would have advanced on some things as well as I did.
What are your thoughts on this? If you're starting out as a new farmer and you're having trouble starting a CSA, So you realize, okay, I have to start building my reputation, building a community, which I agree. I think it's totally important to do, and I think it's a key success point that you need to have. You need to be able to build a community that follows you and believes in you, and then you can leverage off of that going forward. But if you're a new farmer, to go into a farmer's market and kind of compete against other farmers may be tough. What if you just went in and grew 2 things? So you show up, you at least have something there, but you have a lot of 2 things instead of trying to put out this huge wide variety at the booth every week, which may create a lot of pressure on the farm while you're trying to do that and just start up. But at least if you have 1, 2, 3 items when you go there and they appear abundant, like you're doing well, then you can at least be present at the market. You're engaging with the community. You can engage with the other vendors and start getting the word out that way.
Yeah, that can work as long as there's a demand for those items. But if you're going in with items that everybody else has, forget about it. That's one of the biggest aspects of the small urban farmer or just small scale farmer in general is you're not necessarily showing up with big piles of product. You're showing up with small amounts of product in a relatively wide variety because that creates an atmosphere that pulls people into it because you want to create the look of abundance, but you might not have the abundance. So the thinking behind the diversity too is just like it is in the diversity of your financial portfolio. It's just spreading around the risk. And by doing so gives you the mechanisms to engage with the marketplace. And it's that data that you accumulate when you're engaging with customers that is so telling because that tells you what to grow and what not to grow. What you're talking about can work if you've worked up to that or if you're really certain that there's a strong demand for whatever these 3 products we're talking about here to do it. Then you can go in and sell those products. But if you're testing the waters of a place, I don't think that would be a very sound business strategy. It sounds pretty risky.
What about this then? If you grow your variety of crops to offer a bunch of everything, is it worth going in knowing that as a newcomer just starting out, I may not take in a lot of revenue in the early time frame, but I'm taking in a lot of interaction with the marketplace, and that's the trade-off, and that trade-off makes sense for a while?
Yeah, absolutely. It for sure does. It's just you're going to have more economic risk if you're just going to stick it out for 10 weeks and say, okay, I'm just going to invest and get into this marketplace. But at the end of the day, if you're growing something that nobody wants, then, well, you're going to have less interactions anyways because you're going to have more interactions with customers if more people are giving you their money than if they're just walking by your booth and looking at your stuff and not buying anything. So I think what you're describing there with the 3 items, you can work to that. And in fact, that's similar to my approach at the farmer's market. I actually have less variety at the farmer's market than I ever have before. And my sales aren't any less. Our sales are pretty normal as far as our farmers markets go for the summer. But people know me for certain things. And it's one thing that I'm realizing this year too is I'm known for, at the farmers market community, I'm known for 2 things. Shoots and greens. That's the people know me for. They don't know me for tomatoes. They don't know me for baby root vegetables. They know me for greens and shoots or microgreens. Restaurants, they know me for greens, baby root vegetables, microgreens, and tomatoes. 4 crops. So I'm boiling it down every year. This year we really boiled it down at the market because I haven't brought any of the other stuff. Like I'm producing hundreds of pounds of tomatoes a week right now, and I'm producing over 100 pounds of baby patty pan squash a week right now too. I'm not taking any of that to the farmer's market. It's all going to restaurants.
Here's an on-the-fly thought. What about if you're a new farmer who wants to get into a farmer's market, is there a way we can hack the farmer's market? So figure out these are some kind of practices that you could go in or ways you could approach the market that would give you the best chances of success as a newcomer to a market. If we picked you up today and said, you got to go farm in Seattle and you're going to sell at this farmer's market, how would you approach having to compete in an already established market that you're a newcomer to?
You have to set yourself apart. The image you portray as a farmer is very important. Ultimately, it's just you being yourself, but you have to learn how to be yourself and to be comfortable with that and let your character shine through, because that's what people want at a farmer's market. People don't go to a farmer's market to stand in like a grocery store type aisle, buy their stuff and get out. They come to a farmer's market for an experience. I guess it's a kind of a cultural experience, a community experience. So your products are very important, how they're displayed, the way your market stall is displayed, the kind of tablecloths you use, the way if you verticalize your stall, everything, the way how it's all displayed. It's always good to have a lot of things to look at. Like when I was first getting into the farmer's market, I had these big printouts, these digital printouts on cardboard. I spent a couple $100 on them and just had these posters on the side so people could look at pictures of our urban farm. That really drew people in. Being a good orator is crucial at a farmer's market because people go for that. People go to farmer's markets to be entertained in a way too. There's this saying that crowds draw crowds, and it's funny because you see it every time. Like when I'm at the market, I don't do the market much anymore, or I haven't done it much this year, but when I go to the market and I just get really jacked up on a certain subject, it could be anything, it's most likely to do with farming, and I say I've got a few people there that are talking, like listening to me, and then you just see people that are walking by, they stop and then they come out, like, because they see a few people and they go, oh, what are those people checking out? Because people are attracted to other people. And so it just becomes magnetic. Like I've seen it. It's gone so extreme sometimes. And I know how to play this now a little bit, and I'm a loud talker, so this works well for me at the market. Is I'll have a customer come and ask me some questions about the farm, and I might have a couple of the people perusing. They're like looking at stuff. And when they ask me a question, I really project what I'm saying. So I'm not actually just talking to them. I'm projecting it so other people can hear it. So then those other two people at the market stand, they actually start to get engaged and they listen. And then obviously other people come around. And I usually can do this at least once or twice a market. And you'll just get these like gravitational influxes of people that come in, and boom, in 15 minutes you just sold $200 of product. And so I can do these in waves. And it's usually in the morning when there's more people at the market. But that's one thing. That's what I say to people. If you're not a people person, don't do the farmer's market. You got to be a people person. And you can learn to be a people person, because I wasn't. I used to say that I hated people. I cringe whenever I say that now. I don't mean that at all anymore. I've totally changed in that way. I really enjoy people, but I've learned to really enjoy people. But if you don't enjoy people, either try to fix that or just get somebody else to do your market for you. But the best people at markets I see are the people that are really involved in the farming, because that's the kind of people that farmers market customers want to talk to.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like that idea of having photos up and information about your farm, because it draws people in. Even if they have to come in and look at the photo and read something, it's at least getting them into the stall where you have a chance to talk to them. I think a lot of people, in terms of displaying their booths, could just get a feel of, look at each market when they open, walk around, which booths draw you in the most, and what within each booth caught your eye, what makes you want to go into that booth, and then when the market gets going, where are people gravitating, and just, you can kind of study that booth. What is that person doing that's working for them?
There's so much you can learn by just observing, and then you learn what to observe too, because that's the thing that's so interesting about life, is that it's like that old cliche, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know, is that you look at something like a farmer's market as a sadist. So I'll just use myself as an example. Like before I was farming, like when I moved back to Kelowna from Montreal in 2008, and then I was a pretty hardcore farmers market goer because I knew I wanted to be a farmer, and I was like, okay, I gotta shop at the farmers market. So I really got into the farmers market, and at that point, I knew nothing about farming, and it's hilarious too because I think back on the questions that I asked farmers because I was just interested, and I get those questions today, and so I don't approach those with any sort of arrogance or being cocky to a person because I was just as ignorant at some point too. But it is quite funny in how little people actually know about agriculture. And so the more you learn, the more you learn to look for. And so now when I go into a farmer's market, there's 100 times more things I know to look for and to observe than there would have been 6 years ago or 7 years ago for myself. And what you just said was exactly one of them. That's not something I was observing at the time. When I was looking at farmers markets then, and I was doing it on a market research type thing, because I took this little business class that was about a week long, and I did learn some basic stuff like learn your demographics, do some market research kind of stuff. So I was actually intentionally doing that at farmers market. But all I was looking for was the simple stuff, like what are the products being sold? How are they packaged? What are the prices? But now, like what you just mentioned, is a perfect example of how the more you know to look for, and the complexities can just stack on top of each other, and those are really interesting things. And they ultimately come down to just human interactions, and that's what's so cool about a marketplace is that it's so complex. It's just like an ecosystem. There's just so many things happening at once. The arrogance of people who think they can just one guy can control a marketplace is so arrogant to me because it's just so beautiful and so diverse and complex at once. And the more you learn about it, it's like science. It's like looking at microorganisms. Like the more you zoom in on the microscope, the more you see, holy, now there's atoms and there's electrons and all this kind of stuff. That's what a marketplace is like. It's amazing how complex it actually is.
I think a lot of people can set themselves up for success too by just how they present themselves at the market. It's amazing. You go to a farmer's market, a street fair or something like that, and you see the person behind the booth not even facing the front of the booth, and they're on their phone doing something, and it's, why do I want to go up into that booth? And I think the other thing that I always think about when I go to those types of things, like if I ever had to set up a booth, is how do you invite people in without making them feel like they're going to be sold to? Because I'm not the type of person who's going to go up to a booth and engage with the person behind the booth right away if it looks like they're just ready to chat and talk to me.
This is a great subject. I can't believe we haven't gotten into this one yet, but this is a great subject. Yeah, there's a lot at play with the dynamics of what makes a good farmer's market, a good farmer's marketeer. And there's the extremes on both ends. So the one extreme is you got the guy or girl who, and you see it at every farm, both these extremes on any farmer's market at any given day. The guy or girl who's sitting in a chair and they're not engaged at all. They don't give a shit. They're just sitting there and it's almost rude. But then you've got the other extreme is you've got the eager beaver. The person who's just way too strong of a salesman and they're just annoying. And that's the worst. So you definitely want to hug the medium in there. You don't sit down, like never sit down at a farmer's market. If you're in a lull and there's nobody around, sit down and you want to take a rest or whatever, but don't spend the majority of your farmer's market stand sitting down. There's actually some psychology. My girlfriend studies body language, or actually lectures on body languages. I've heard this before, that there's a psychology in where your body is positioned to other people. If you're way too below people, or if you're way too towering over people, that has a psychological effect on people. And so if you're sitting down, people might feel like they are imposing on you. But if you're too up front in their face, they might feel like you're imposing on them. So you have to be you have to hug the median there. I find the best way to be at a farmer's market is to stand, be present, be friendly, but don't engage every single person that comes to your booth. And I do this intentionally. I used to, every single person that walked around my booth would be like, hey, how you doing today? I've got this and this, like just being too much of a salesperson. Not like on the extreme, but I still was a bit too much. And there's two reasons you don't want to do that. The first one is it's actually exhausting for yourself. You'll get really tired doing that. You're just expending too much energy and not getting anything in return. Like I look at emotions and human energy just like I do as economics. It's got to be win-win. It's got to be a given. It's got to be a two-way street. And so if you're just outputting energy constantly, you get really tired and you might get cranky. And you might burn out because you'll start to be a little bit resentful of the fact that you're just constantly being friendly to people and people aren't engaging you. And they might not be engaging you because you might be a little annoying. So the best way to be is to be present, stand there, and when people come up, smile, and I wait for a signal from them before I engage too much more. And I go with that. And I've learned to read people, and my dad is very good at reading people, and I learned a lot of this from him, is that I just look for body language. And my girlfriend Katie is, again, just like an expert on body language, and so I know she learned a lot about body language from her, but I look at the body language of people and I make a decision in my mind on how I want to react. And so there's some people that I see coming from my stand that I can just see that they're beaming. They're just like super positive, energetic people. Those kind of people, I'll be like, hey, I'll just launch into it and be really stoked and engaging right away. But then I can see other kinds of people coming in where they're a little bit more timid and they have a bit more of a passive body language. And so I don't throw myself at them because that's not the kind of interaction they want. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be a chameleon and mimic the body language of the people that are coming to my stand. And this is not exclusive to farming. This is like Tony Robbins kind of stuff. Tony Robbins wrote a book on this. So that's really how it works. And if you're sitting down, you can't possibly mimic another person's body language.
How do you deal with the time bandits, the people that come up and just want to talk and talk?
That's a great question. When I'm at the market, I am constantly paying attention to multiple things at once, and I'm consistently doing that so that people know to expect that from me. Like, when they come to my market and I'm talking to one person, I immediately will welcome another person that I like. So I'm looking in my periphery, I'm reading their body language. And it's funny, the way I'm describing this right now is I've totally analyzed all this. I haven't really. The way you're asking me these questions right now is forcing me to think about it. A lot of this stuff is just intuitive. So I don't want to give the impression to people that I've just like really analyzed all this stuff. Like it's really intuitive, which I think body language is to the most part. But I'm always reading the people coming in, and so I always have a thing where I don't give a person the opportunity to monopolize my time. Because when somebody else comes in, I say hello, and then I will immediately, if they look like they're ready to buy something, I immediately I'll keep talking to that person. I won't just cut them off. I won't be rude, but I will go over to that other person and say, okay, can I help you? Are you ready to go? Is that everything for you? Can I get you a bag or whatever? And then I'll keep listening, but I'll break it up so that person they won't have the opportunity to monopolize my time. So that's really what it is. But I know what you mean though. There are some people that will just come and just take forever. I have this one customer. She's been buying stuff off for me for years, and she's probably 75 or something. She's very sweet, but she takes, I'm not kidding you, 15 minutes to make a decision. And she just stands there and she'll pick up a bag of microgreens and she'll like nervously hold it in her hands and she'll almost mash up the bag. Like in 1 year, it drove me to put in all of my microgreens in clamshell containers. I'm so sick of people coming and just manhandling these things. So I'm polite with her, but I'm very observant of what's going on so that I'm always in and out of the conversation. That's how I manage it.
Okay, what about in terms of common farmers market giveaways? What are your thoughts on samples of product?
I don't do samples because it's a pain and because my farmers market doesn't let me. They do, but you gotta stand there with latex gloves. You gotta serve it with a specific way, and the health authorities have really got into that thing. So I don't do that. And I don't negotiate. I've done that in the past, and then some people will come back and just want to do that. Like, I saw this guy at the market the other day. I almost felt like grabbing him by the neck. He was walking around, and he's this kind of, I don't know, hippie kind of guy who thinks the world owes him a living. And he's walking around as all the farmers are packing up, and he's just asking for either free stuff or, like, to give you $1 for a $5 bag of greens or something. And it's insane. And it's like the 5th or 6th time I've seen him do this. And so now I know that he just comes at the very end, and just so he can get deals or free stuff from other farmers. And so I don't do that. It's no, you pay the full price, because if I open that door for you now, you give an inch, they take a mile. So, of course, that doesn't go with a food bank or anything like that. Like any sort of charitable organization, absolutely take as much as you want, or take it all, or whatever is left over, if that's where it's going to go. But yeah, I don't get into that stuff either. Just bargaining with people at the end of the day.
I think that's a key lesson, and I've learned that personally, is never cheapen your product.
No, I'm not cheap.
And it sets the stage it sets precedence for the future, and that's not something you want to get into. And I think, again, this is from personal experience, I think it can be hard for people getting into business to value a sale of some sort over less full price sales. But it's a dangerous spiral to go down, and I've seen people negotiate at farmers markets. I've seen farmers cut deals, and I think you're right. I don't think that's a smart path to go down.
Yeah, and I don't even play the game like anymore, and it's gotten less over the years. I think because the mentality of farming is changing, but I don't even play the game where people come and they complain about prices and they expect you to do something about it. I don't even play into that. I had this woman come up to me at the booth. This is a number of weeks ago, like before I took a break from doing markets. And she walked up, and she had this really nervous energy, this kind of weird vibe. And she was standing around looking, and she's like, "Your prices are really expensive." And it's funny she said that, because I know that my prices are cheaper than a lot of other farmers, and I don't know what her point of reference is, because even compared to the grocery store, my greens are cheaper than the grocery store. So I didn't even know what she was talking about. I'm like, you don't have to buy it. And that's really, I said that smiling, but I don't even really engage with it. I just was like, what do you want me to do about that for you? I'm not going to do anything for it. Okay, you don't have to buy it. And she ended up buying it anyways. So, because she said to me, she's compared to other growers here, your stuff is way more expensive. And I just know she's pulling that out of her ass, because I know all the other farmers, and I know where my prices stand to everybody else's. And I don't really adjust my prices towards anybody else's, but I know my stuff isn't that expensive. And I know that my product is good, and I know that my time and my value is worth a certain amount, and I'm not going to sell myself short for a $3 sale, especially on somebody who probably will not be a long-term customer anyways. Farmers markets have this dynamic more than any other customer stream, I find, is that you can tell pretty quickly what kind of customer a person's going to be, just based on their energy, based on their general demeanor. And I'm never rude to anybody at the market, but I just know where to put my energy. It's a very Tai Chi type thing. I'm not going to put any more into this engagement than you are, because it's got to be a two-way street. And so if a person's going to come up and be rude and complain about this or that, I'm not going to really give much in response. Having said that, if it is a customer of mine in the past that comes up and says, "Hey, Curtis, I bought this bag of greens last week and it spoiled on me." It's, "Oh, absolutely. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Here's a bag to replace it, and here's some other free stuff too." Because that I'm investing in a customer that I can see value in. And also that person, if they had the courage to bring it up in the first place, then I actually appreciate that. Some people approach those kind of things like, "How dare you damage my pride?" But I actually look at that as that person gave me an opportunity. They gave me an opportunity to make things right, and so I'm going to make it right because I'm honored that they actually gave me the opportunity. Because most people just wouldn't bring it up. They would just not come back.
Yeah, I love that whole idea there. One final one just to close this out. Do you have any thoughts on literature? Because that's something people love to give away. If you ever had any success with printouts talking about your farm, cards, those types of things, are they worth the return?
Yeah, for sure. Especially with the CSA. Absolutely. I always have cards, business cards at my market. It's something I did more of in the past. Like when I was getting established, I always had literature. Like I had this little one card. It was an 8.5 by 11 card stock split in half and printed on both sides. And so I had a little display with them, and it was just like Green City Acres. What is urban farming? What is Green City Acres all about? Why do you do what we do? Whatever it was. And then on the back side of it was information about our CSA, and then restaurants that we sold to or whatnot. And then when we started doing the CSA more full on, especially when it came time to promote the CSA, so say the first farmers market in April, because our CSA would usually start about mid-May, we would just have lots of propaganda to give around about our CSA. So we would have a 2-pager. That was definitely great. And really nailing the talking points, just learning a little bit about market copy. A person could really learn a lot about how to make a good design. It's not so much even about the design as the graphic design as it is about the points, like the words that attract people and the real strong points about what is the CSA, why is it valuable, why do you want to do it. Always pitching things to be how this is going to help you. That's how you want to frame everything. But yeah, absolutely. Having literature is great, especially when you're starting out, because that person, if they walk by your stand and they're interested in what you're doing, they'll take that and they'll give it to a friend. And then that person will say, "Hey, that's really cool." And then they'll go check you out, and then they'll do the same thing. So it definitely will have a ripple effect for a while. I don't do it anymore because a lot of people know who we are, and I'm not necessarily trying to expand my farm at the farmer's market, really. But in the beginning, it was great.
Love that whole point, and it all goes into telling your story. There's a lot of good info on this one. So hopefully this answered a lot of questions with regards to farmers markets and CSAs and can help people at least approach these things differently and hopefully help increase some chances of success going forward. Thanks for watching this episode of The Urban Farmer. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss a single episode.